Let's talk about Janemba. At this point, we all know that Janemba is the next DLC character for Dragon Ball FighterZ, but what will his moveset be like? Unlike other characters in Dragon Ball FighterZ, Janemba hasn't had a multi-episode appearance. No, he is a movie character. There's a limited pool of moves for Arc System Works to pull from. So I got together with a few premium bushes. We all watched the Janemba movie together. It was a lot of fun. That movie has a lot more Hitler than I expected. Yeah, you heard that right. A lot more Hitler. And the Janemba fight, if you break it down, it's actually pretty short. It doesn't do that much, so it becomes kind of easy to predict what his moveset is going to be like. That said, even if we know his moves, we don't really know what their effect will be in game, so Arc System Works definitely has some space to be creative. Some space to make his gimmicks something we're not fully expecting. So, with that, let's predict the Janemba move list. First up, we need to consider Fat Janemba as a possibility. Personally, I don't think Fat Janemba will be the chosen character, for multiple reasons that I'll get into later, but we need to entertain the possibility that he will be the version of Janemba we see in game. Not only because there's a remote chance that it could actually happen, but also because Arc Systems could pull from this Fat Janemba moveset and implement those Fat Janemba moves into the Super Janemba. So even though Fat Janemba doesn't fight for that long, he does show off a few interesting abilities. First of all, he can create clones of himself, clones that Goku quickly disposes of, but nonetheless, if that's his gimmick, that's a very unique and interesting gimmick for sure. Janemba also seems to have some telekinesis. He pulls down those, I'm gonna call them jelly beans, and crushes Goku with them. So telekinesis is definitely a part of his powers. Another thing Fat Janemba does is put his hands and feet through a portal to execute these portal punches and kicks. This is definitely one of those abilities that I can see Arc System Works pulling from Fat Janemba and just giving it to Super Janemba. He also creates a clone of Goku to counter a Goku Kamehameha, which opens the door for a ton of possibilities like mirror moves and stuff like that. And finally, he does this, nipple ki blasts. He's got nipple ki blasts. I don't know whether to be impressed or seriously disgusted. So even though he's got all of these cool abilities, there are a couple of reasons that just kind of rule him out as a character for Dragon Ball FighterZ. One, the Dragon Ball fanbase tends to prefer the stronger characters, even if the stronger characters are the most uninteresting characters imaginable. So even if Fat Janemba ends up being a more interesting character as far as moveset goes, I can see the fan demand just being too much of a pressure to put Super Janemba in the game. But also, Fat Janemba is gigantic. He might just be too big of a character for the type of game that Dragon Ball FighterZ is. Just imagine fighting with someone that is twice as tall as Broly. So yeah, for those reasons, I really don't think Fat Janemba is a realistic expectation, but that doesn't mean that the moves we just talked about won't be implemented into Super Janemba. But let's start from the very beginning. Super Saiyan 3 Goku punches Janemba so hard that he turns into mush and transforms into Super Janemba. This could easily be Janemba's intro. It is a pretty cool transformation. One of the first things that Janemba does is open this portal that parries a projectile. So a projectile parry for Janemba is definitely a very big possibility. Even Xenoverse has implemented this into Janemba's moveset. You can just open a portal that absorbs Ki Blast, and then the Ki Blasts show up at the opponent's back. And since he's got this portal power, I can easily see the portal punches and kicks being a part of his moveset as well. Straight up just taking those from Fat Janemba and bringing them over to Super Janemba. Janemba also has this very unique teleportation where he almost disintegrates and reintegrates somewhere else on the screen, and that is just one of Janemba's coolest moves visually. That's one of the first things that I think about when I think Janemba. It's this teleportation move. Xenoverse uses this move as Janemba's Vanish, but in FighterZ, the Vanish is a bit faster, and I'm not sure the animation would play very well. Also, the teleport seems pretty slow in the movie. Once Vegeta gets in, he's able to throw and hit Janemba with a Ki Blast while he is teleporting. So it could be a high risk, high reward move, maybe a simple relocation thing like Raiden in Mortal Kombat. Or it may end up being something that's simply used in a cinematic move, like a special attack or maybe even a super, though personally, I would very much like to see this teleport as part of Janemba's gimmick and not just a part of a random cinematic. Then Janemba opens his mouth and either throws a beam or a Ki Blast. I know we're all rooting for beam, please give Janemba a beam, have that be his assist, but it's actually super unclear on whether he shoots a beam or a Ki Blast. I'm gonna say it's a beam, that's how I interpreted this scene at least, so let's go with that. Mouth beam, totally a possibility. Next, Janemba picks up a club that shows up out of nowhere and quickly transforms it into a sword. Now, he actually doesn't hold the sword for as long as I remembered, which begs the question, is Janemba even gonna be a sword character? Because really all he does with the sword is throw a couple of these sword slashes. They are projectiles. This is definitely a move that we could see in Janemba's moveset, but after he's done with those projectiles, the sword just kind of breaks, which which means he doesn't fight with a sword for that long. I thought for sure this was gonna be a sword character, but now I'm having second thoughts on that. The way Xenoverse solved this was having be a non-sword character, but every time he attacks, he summons a sword out of nowhere. We could see something similar in FighterZ, where some moves actually have him pull out of the sword, just straight up create it out of nothing and use it to hit your opponent with, or something that you summon by doing a special move input, like these sword slashes for instance. The sword slashes could be either a super or special attack. It could actually be both as well. Imagine a single slash as a special move, but then the super is multiple sword slashes. But keep in mind that he might also have the beam attack, the beam that he shoots from his mouth. Now, if he does have the beam, having this second projectile might be a little bit weird, but hey, it worked for Goku Black. Goku Black's ki blasts kind of resemble these sword slashes, and he's got a beam attack too, so it's always possible. But since we also don't have a lot of moves to pull from, I'm gonna say the sword slashes are gonna show up as a super, at the very least. They could also be a special attack, but I think they're definitely gonna be a super. Now the question is, if it is a super, is this the only time Janemba pulls out of his sword? I was kind of looking forward to a sword character, but if it only happens during a super, something in the bottom of my heart says, oh, a little bit disappointed. But it's too soon to be disappointed, isn't it? We don't even know what Arc Systems is doing with this character. Anyway, from here, he's got this stretchy arm thing. It reminds us of Piccolo a lot. It could be a normal, like Piccolo, sort of a command grab type deal, or it could actually be a special attack input. I'm actually leaning more towards the special attack input just because it's different from Piccolo. If it was the same as Piccolo, it would sort of be a knockoff thing, right? And I think in the interest of making the character a bit more unique, you don't want to give stretchy arms to Janemba as like a normal attack. You want to make this at least a special, if it is even in the game, because he only does this once. Then Janemba executes this attack, which is this rain of sparkles. This is called the Dimension Ray in Xenoverse 2, and it's one of his supers in Xenoverse. In FighterZ, this could either be his level 1 or level 3, though to be honest, this is probably the most powerful attack that Janemba unleashes in the entire movie. So the chances of it being his level 3 are pretty high, even if the attack itself looks a bit underwhelming. There are always cinematic tricks that Arc Systems could pull off to make it look a bit more hype, but as far as special attacks go, Dimension Ray is just a rain of sparkles. It doesn't even look like it hurts. It's a light show is what it is. At this point in the movie, Goku and Vegeta start their attempts at a fusion, and Fat Gogeta is the first result. And it's against Fat Gogeta that we see a lot of Janemba's potential normals. We've got a lot of punches and kicks, all of them very powerful, but also kinda slow. Janemba doesn't seem like the type of character to land multiple rush attacks. He seems a little bit more like Cooler, where his attacks are slower, but each one of them seems to hit like a truck. And unfortunately, this also means he probably won't have a low too well, but obviously that's something Arc Systems could always just make up. Hey, we made up a low attack, there you go. Now he has a low too well. A couple more attacks happen after this. He morphs some random rubble into a spear-like attack. This could also be a special move, but I'm just not feeling it, to be honest. He throws some ki blasts, so that's also a possibility. It could be a character with ki blasts. Ki blasts are always useful to control the neutral in some way. A lot of characters struggle to get in if they don't have ki blasts, though sometimes they have other stuff to make up for that. And then as Goku and Vegeta are trying to fuse again, Pikkon jumps in the middle of it just to buy time, and Janemba lands this move on Pikkon himself, punching his head from both sides. This is a cool looking move that I think would work great as the third hit of an auto combo. Maybe it side switches, maybe not, but 1, 2, punch him, grab him, throw him in the air, super dash, continue the auto combo. Goku and Vegeta finally fuse into proper Gogeta, and Janemba just gets beat at this point, so that's the end of it. He doesn't really land any other moves, he just dies. So as you can see, there aren't a lot of moves to pull from, but our systems could still implement these moves in creative ways, making the character behave somehow differently from what we're expecting. So let's summarize all this information, let's condense all the moves that we talked so far into a more organized list maybe. Janemba's normals will be slow but powerful, similar to Cooler's. The double punch to the head delivered by Pikkon would make a great third auto combo hit. He could also have ki blasts, but honestly I don't think it's a given at this point, given how little he used the ki blasts. And then for special attacks, we're looking at mouth beam attack, sword slash, stretchy arm, projectile parries with a portal. I think this one's a must, to be honest. And hopefully, fingers crossed, something unique using his teleportation. And if Arc Systems is willing to pull from Fat Janemba's moveset and give those moves to Super Janemba, then they've got a lot of options. You could have a clone gimmick, you could have the telekinesis, you could have portal punches and kicks. The only thing they wouldn't be able to pull from Fat Janemba would be the nipple ki blast, because well, there ain't no nipples on this Super Janemba guy. And then for supers, we'll most likely have sword slashes again, this time maybe multiple sword slashes instead of a single one, and the Dimension Ray. And before we end this video, video, I want to say that one of my absolute favorite things about the Janemba movie is the stage itself. Hell looks so good with all the colors, with all the jelly beans, and I think it's a complete waste if they don't take this stage and do something with it. One of the few things that I think Dragon Ball FighterZ is missing is some good stage DLC. Because let's be honest, the only DLC stage they released so far looks really bad. But hey, that's only my opinion. I'd also love to know what you guys think. Would you like to see the Hell stage in FighterZ? What moves do you think they'll take from the movie and give the character in-game? What type of character do you think it will be? Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.